Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with Ryan Fahey. Well, it's an excellent way of doing an inventory of, okay, how am I spending my time in a day? How am I spending my time in a week and then in a month? And then you start to find out, okay, well, this is why I didn't accomplish this, or this is why this goal is taking longer than I had planned for, or you know what, by burning this boat, I'm able to now have more time to do this. So that just such an incredible chapter, and it's one that I'll probably read a couple more times, because it does take work, and it takes effort, and it takes being conscientious of those decisions that you make, and deciding, this is how I want to spend my time. This is how I can better spend my time. So I'm really grateful you wrote that chapter, and I know others will really benefit from it as well. And then I guess connecting to this discussion here about how we prioritize our time and who we prioritize in our time and energy, you have a solid approach to marriage and your relationship with your beautiful wife Amber, and I that was resonated throughout the book, where it isn't just about our goals and our purpose as individuals, but it's also who is in our lives, and who we share space with, and in this case, your marriage. Can you talk a little bit more about how you are able to find that balance between, fulfilling your goals, and then also fulfilling your goals in partnership with your wife?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. My wife she's incredible. When we got married, I said, traditionally when you look at marriage, they kind of say behind every man there's a woman. Well, I don't agree with that. I believe that my wife should be standing right beside me, and so we've been very intentional about that. That as much as I have a book and have some of these great things going on, it would not be possible without the incredible support of her, and just the love that she brings into her home, and the space that she gives for me to do what I do is amazing, and I'm very grateful for that. But thank you for bringing that up, Andrea. It's been it's been dynamic. We're not perfect by any means, and we're both very passionate about our careers. We're very passionate about what our values are, and what we believe in. And so, we've learned early on in our marriage to work with that, and find ways to, say, for example, Amber right now, she's a nurse in the ER unit at the one of the hospitals here in Ottawa. And so those are 12-hour shifts. So a great example is, she'll go in for a shift, and I'll work my kind of regular hours or whatever with my full-time job. And then what I do is I cluster any meetings, email responses, business work in that remaining, what I call fringe hours. And those fringe hours are either at the beginning of the morning before the workday, or at the end of your workday, but before she gets home. And so I'm kind of like a mad dog, just going to work and getting as much done as I can, so that when 7:30 rolls around, she comes home, we're able to have dinner, and we're able to have our evening together. And one of her love languages is quality time. And so I really structure the business around that. So I don't really take a lot of calls or really anything. If she's home, it's mostly if she's working, I find ways to kind of cluster work into that space. And so that's been something that's been really rewarding for our marriage, because it's just like we don't miss a beat. We're able to really balance being high functioning in our jobs and in our passions, but then work together and fully present with each other, and not on our phones, and not checking email or responding, or doing any of that kind of thought work. that you're passionate about, but is kind of taking away from the marriage a little bit. So that's been a constant juggle. And now with COVID, my office is at home, so it's been really, really nice. And I recognize that I'm a little bit privileged to have that opportunity to be working from home, but to be around, to put something in the oven at 4 o'clock so that she can
Mm-hmm.
have it when she gets home, and I can go back to the computer and go to work and whatnot. It's just been a huge help. But I recommend for anyone who is listening that those fringe hours, that concept of the fringe hours, is really, really important, and how you spend those fringe hours is equally as important. I could spend it watching Netflix, but her second love language is acts of service. So what would the difference be if she comes home and the floor is swept and the dishes are done, as
Mm.
opposed to just me sitting on the couch watching Netflix because I didn't want to do that. So continuously being selfless and continuously feeding those love languages and those fringe hours is equally as important. So I guess those would be my little tidbits there.
Wow, I love that. That's really inspiring, and what a beautiful approach and foundation to have between the two of you. And it sounds like a lot of collaboration,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of communication, and committing through those everyday choices that you make. Like you said, the choices that may not seem so significant, but they all add up to bigger things. In this case, supporting your marriage and paying attention to the love languages of your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I too believe in that. Yes, it's a side by side. You're both going forward together in life.
Mm-hmm.
No one is more important than the other, and you're both headed in the same direction. And you ultimately want to do good things together in the world, and both of you are in working in fields that are connected to wellness. So I think that's also really amazing, is if you have that partner who is somehow connected to an area that you're passionate about. I think that's really complements who you are together and what you accomplish as individuals and also as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing that, because I don't think we spend enough time talking about what makes relationships successful, and really diving deep into seeing how, the smaller decisions add up to bigger things. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for sharing that, Ryan. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Amber's very blessed to have you, and you're very blessed to have her as well. And it shows in the way you two move forward in this life. And I I also think that sometimes we do get caught up in, well, it's one or the other. Sometimes life feels like we have to make one decision over another in order to do one thing. So, for example, well, right now someone might say I can only focus on my career, and I'm in school and I'm trying to finish school, and so I can focus on my career and establish myself. So I don't have time for a relationship, or I don't know if I can have time to have a successful relationship, or vice versa. I only have time to put into my relationships, whether it's with family, friends, or your significant other, and therefore I don't have enough energy or time to focus on my career or my other goals. But I really see how you are able to work at having that balance. And like you said, it's not perfect, but it's the continual
Mm-hmm.
habits that you do every day. And I really appreciate how you talk about that in your best decade, are those habits, the things that we do every day that lead to the bigger things we do in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. It's yeah, you hit it perfect. It's it's constantly learning and constantly collaborating and working together and communicating. It's funny, we have 3 calendars on the go at any given time. So it's like, okay, what's on this calendar? Let's make sure all 3 calendars are synced up, because we need them to be. It's kind of like a song, right? Like you want the song to be, you love the beautiful sound of the song. Well, you can easily tell when a song is out of harmony, right? And you,
Yes.
you don't want that. You want to stay in harmony, and you can create beautiful things when you're in harmony.
Yes, absolutely. I love your images. They're always they allow me to think deeper and bigger and brighter about things. Okay, so speaking of your work, so you're working from home currently. I know that you are working with Physical and Health Education Canada. Can you tell me what that role is like for you? What sort of work you do there?
Yeah, for sure, Andrea. So, for your listeners here, Physical and Health Education Canada, give us a little Google. We are a small but mighty team. There's only just under a dozen of us, and work out of the national office here in Ottawa, but it's all in our remote homes right now. But I've been with PHE Canada for almost a couple years now, and it's amazing. So my work is, I don't really like titles, but my title is lead of special projects and campaigns. So essentially, what I do is, kind of incubate new projects that can support comprehensive school health in schools. So whether that's looking at supporting teachers in their lesson planning, or whether it's a school developing a wellness-based policy, or just sharing knowledge about what's the existing research out there around, say, physical activity, a lot of that, a lot of advocacy, and a lot of knowledge sharing is what the role is involved in. And then on the campaign side of that, we actually have a campaign coming out this fall, and we've run it now. I think this will be the third year, and it's a mental health campaign. So it's called Share to Care, and essentially schools can share with us their promising practices about how they're supporting mental health, whether that's at the student level or at the staff level, and so that's a huge bit of joy for me within the job that I do, Andrea, is that at the end of that campaign, we fund. I think last year we might have funded, I think, 5 initiatives, and the year before that we funded 5 as well. Being able to actually send money to those schools that are really focusing on positive mental health practices in different ways, and then we feature those on the website and kind of share those out. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and to have the space to create is amazing. When you look at a lot of special projects that we do at PHE Canada, they're not really static. They're constantly
Mm-hmm.
changing. Even this spring, we completely shift gears to developing national guidelines for a reintegration back to schools from a physical and health education lens. And so that was a huge project that the team took on, and then more specifically, another campaign we did was around We Support PHE, and it was at the time where a lot of the provincial governments were sending out the at-home learning mandates for the spring, and not every province or territory had included wellness or physical education or health in those at-home learning mandates. So our role was to really advocate for that, and to respond to the government and to engage the governments across the country to either celebrate that they've done it, or to say, look, your
Mm.
neighboring province has done this and you need to include well-being. And interestingly enough, Newfoundland was one of those provinces, PEI was another, that had well-being right in the foundation of their at-home learning mandates. And Newfoundland, actually, one of their at-home learning curriculum outcomes in high school was for students to find a hobby around their house. And I thought
Mm.
that was just so great. I'm like, you've taught in rural Alberta, Andrea. I mean, like, the things you can do around the land, and things like fort building
Mm-hmm.
and outdoor camping and woodworking, like, these are great life skills. And for the Newfoundland government to recognize that, it was really cool to see that parents and teachers had the permission to encourage that, and that it was actually something that could be assessed, which I think is awesome for challenging that kind of quote unquote traditional education with numeracy literacy. So that was
Mm.
kind of neat. It was neat to be a part of that here at the national office, and to listen to what was happening at all levels and in all provinces and territories, and then be able to kind of synthesize that and create a campaign that would allow folks to engage in it and really just feel that sense of belonging and community to physical and health education. So the rules constantly changing, and the only constant I think at this point is change. But it's a lot of fun, and I approach it with that learning orientation that you learn as you go, and there will be mistakes along the way, but we have a great team, and it's a lot of fun.
Wow, I mean, it's very much sounds like a lot of work that you started doing at a provincial level when you were with Everactive Schools, and now it's at a national level
Mm-hmm.
and international level. And it's amazing that you've been able to continue with that, um, on that pathway of pursuing wellness and educating others about wellness, and then you get to see how it is rippling out and how it is impacting people in a really positive way. And sounds like you work with a really amazing team as well
Mm-hmm.
at your I'm sorry, I apologize, I keep referring it to physical physical and health
Mm-hmm.
education, but it's Physical Health and Education Canada. Is that correct?
Either or, but I think physical and health education is good, or just PHE Canada. Either one is if you just Googled any of those, you'd find us.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. So, where does U.S. Play Coalition fit into this? Because I know you're also connected to them as well.
Yeah. So that was prior to. Well, actually, I'll back up a little bit to earlier on when we were chatting about my time at St. FX in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. When I graduated, I had that thought I was going to go travel and kind of see the world, and so I ended up landing a position in North Carolina, in Raleigh, North Carolina, with an organization called Be Active Kids, and this was early on. I think it was my first real job in my career outside of university, and when I was down there. I went to the U.S. Play Coalition conference at Clemson University in Clemson, South Carolina, and I fell in love with it. I was like, these folks are my people. They are like, they want to play, they want to talk education. There are museum folks there, parks and recreation folks, and of course Clemson. To be on that campus, and the legacy with football and sport, and obviously education was really just, it was humbling to be there. And so I kind of stayed connected with
Mm,
that organization, kind of on and off from that experience. And from that I've continued to support that organization, kind of just on the side as a part-time piece in developing some of their social media outputs and educational outputs, and their play ambassador initiatives, and just really getting tools into play ambassadors' hands so that they can go and engage their communities in play. And I obviously come at it from an active play lens because I really like that. But of course, there's multiple
mhm.
forms of play, and really just providing the tools and pieces that those folks need to support their play passions and opportunities. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've been back a few times since going to that first conference, and it's kind of like you're in the presence of family. You see the same people. It's a very niche group. It's the conference is only about 100 people, and it has grown a little bit, but since I went in, you kind of see the same folks, and it's just a lot of fun and a bit of a passion piece there for me. But yeah, it's good. I hope it continues, and I don't know when I'm going to get stateside again with the whole pandemic, but whenever that clears up,
Mhm.
I'll be making another trip to South Carolina, I'm sure.
Amazing. I believe I have them on my social media, and I have seen their conference advertisements, and I know I would love to attend one of their conferences. And then just hearing you talk about how you're connected to them and that sense of family and connection, I'm really drawn to networking with organizations that have that, set up that type of climate with their teams.
Yeah, it's a great group, and they're playful.
Well, you're never too old to play. I truly believe that, and I know you instill that in your own life. speaking of, you are an annual Spartan racer.
Yeah.
So when did you get started? And first of all, if you can just tell us more what Spartan racing is and when did you first compete and what was that experience like for you and what made you want to continue to being a Spartan racer?
Yeah, it's that's an interesting one, Andrea. It was after my I was taking a road trip back to Canada in 2014. Um, and I had stopped in Milwaukee for a Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for a physical education conference. And at the time, my good friend, an educator, he's now in Montreal, Joey Fife, was keynoting. So I was like, oh, I'm on a road trip. I'll swing by Milwaukee. And so I did it, went to this conference with him, and obviously it was great and it was awesome. But I'd stayed in Milwaukee as I'd registered for this random Spartan race, and I didn't really know too much about it. It was kind of still up and coming back in 2014, and so I went and I ran it at Brewer Park, where the Milwaukee Brewers baseball team plays, and it was super cool. I had so much fun. You're running on the upper bowl, you're carrying stuff, and then next thing you know, you're going down into the dugouts and you're doing burpees, and then you're in the locker room doing push-ups, and you're looking at the history of this place, and how cool is this that I get to do something, like I get to run and move around and move objects and pick things up and be playful in this stadium that is on national TV most of the year, and it was just super cool. So I left that experience and I was like, I'm going to do this again. And so it took me a couple of years, but kind of got back into it in 2016, 17. And last year, Amber and I both really got into it. She just fell in love with it. We've done a few of them here in Canada, and they're just a blast. Like they're very challenging for sure. Like the obstacles will expose a weakness for sure, and everyone has one.
Mm.
And it's interesting because all body types do it, and certain folks can excel at different obstacles and certain folks can't. And there's ones that my wife is very petite, so there's ones that she can excel at, but then there's ones,
Mm-hmm.
and that same one I can't even do it. And so you're constantly working with each other, and you're dealing with all the emotions, right, that come with not being able to do it. Because if you don't do an obstacle, you have to do 30 burpees. And so,
Okay.
yeah, so it starts to wear on you too when you do the longer races. Like, okay, when is this going to end? This is awful. And then you get to the finish line, you realize like it was so much fun, and it's kind of like life, right? Like, how are you going to deal with this? How are you going to deal with this emotion? How are you going to deal with
Mm-hmm.
failing? And you fail at least once in this race, regardless of which type race you do. And for me, it just pushes me to shore up those areas where I'm maybe not strong in, but to deal with those emotions, because they're going to happen in life, and they're going to happen in work, and you're ready for it because you've built that resilience through Spartan racing. And so we just love it to death. And I got a few battle scars for life from doing them. So I recommend people do the smallest one or the shortest one if you're going to do one first. But they're a lot of fun.
Wow. I have contemplated for a couple of years now. So I guess as I say this to you out loud, Ryan, I'm thinking, okay, it's time to make a commitment. I have been wanting to do one, so maybe next year. You know what? Forget maybe. I am going to commit to doing one next year. You have to say that, remove maybes to I am going to statements. So yes, I am committing to going to finally do one next year. I believe there's one in Red
Yeah.
Deer. I've been looking at that one and, you know, do my best and get out of my comfort zone because I know from the pictures I've seen and from your social media and when you post about completing the Spartan races, it's a lot to prepare for. And I think I even asked you a couple of years ago, what do you need to do to prepare for one, or how did you prepare? I'm thinking of doing one. Well, here we are, fast forward to 2020. I'm going to do one. So I'll get back to you on what my experience is like when the opportunity, allows me to, after this
Mm-hmm.
pandemic situation finds a resolve. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I running is a big part of your life. I noticed. Like you ran for your university team. Is that correct?
I did. I ran in high school. I ran track and field for my school team, and then I kind of ran, but more at the club level um,
Okay. Yeah.
at university. But I did a few kind of run fundraisers and fun runs and things like that. But yeah, track and field for me is, and I know you've had some track runners on your show already, which is awesome to see. But I have such a heart for track and field. Like when the Olympics are on, as an example, and Amber loves the Olympics, we
Mm-hmm.
are just glued to the track events and all levels, like from the hurdles to the 5,000, any event, doesn't matter if there's a Canadian in it or not. I just love it, and track and field is something for me when I didn't realize the lessons it taught me until later in life. But you're never really competing
Mm,
against anyone when you're running track. You're really competing against yourself. And I
mm-hmm.
didn't learn that until later, and I was like, oh, I would have been such a better runner if I had this mindset. Um, but I'm sure Riley and others on that you've had on here would attest. But yeah, it's such a great sport for learning what your boundaries are, and then learning how to push through and learning how to navigate emotions, and just getting dialed in for that split second, or that 5,000, whatever that looks like. It's just yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I know you've been a big champion of doing some running events and getting kids running, and doing some really cool things there too. So it's I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about, but it's a lot of fun.
Yes, it for me it's I'll compete in the races here throughout Alberta, but it's really my one of my gifts of therapy for myself in my healing journey, and
Mm-hmm.
it nurtures my wellness. And I found that when I was teaching, I was when I was running, it really helped me with stress after a long day or a tough day. It was just a place that I could go and just relieve stress, and after you do it, you just feel amazing. It's
Mm-hmm.
I really do recommend that people, if they can't run, at least go for a walk, do a trail, and connect with nature. And that's one of my wellness gifts that I give to myself is to get outside and get moving, and whether it's walking or running. And I see that you're passionate about running as well. And I know around the time when I met you is when I started coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of fell into coaching, if you will. I wanted to coach volleyball and basketball, but those were already spoken for. And then I was voluntold to coach the cross country team. And I'm not someone to decline an opportunity, even if I maybe don't know what I'm doing or what I'm getting myself into. It's all part of that getting out of my comfort zone attitude. So um, around the time when you and I had met, I know you were supporting my
Mm-hmm.
growth in physical literacy in the classroom, but I was also using a lot of those tools with the youth, the students that I was coaching as well. So that was really helpful, and it also made me think about my own wellness realm and what am I doing to keep well, and also that living and leading by example, not just being a coach on the sidelines and telling the kids to, training them, but it also for me that meant doing it. So I would train with them, I would run with them, and again get out of my comfort zone and challenge myself to experience what they were experiencing, so
Mm-hmm.
I would know how to better support them, especially when they hit those either those plateaus or those challenges, and knowing how to get to the next level. So I really appreciated your mentorship to me, not only as a teacher, a health champion teacher, but also as a coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was you rocked that, by the way. It was a lot of fun. I remember you would text and send updates on how the kids were doing and how you were doing and some of the different races. I think you were doing there was like a moon run or something in Lethbridge, might have been at the time.
Yeah, Moonlight
Moonlight
Run.
Run, yeah, that was really cool. It's just to see the look on the kids' faces, like again back to your idea of the therapy and the healing, and it's a great form to do that, right? Movement can bring people together. It can bring us to ourselves. It's an incredible thing, and when you look at costs, like it's pretty affordable, right? It can be a real
Mm-hmm.
equalizer in that sense. So it's a great any listeners on here, it's a great activity to pick up or start doing.
Absolutely. And I think that ties into your ideologies around self compassion, the practice of self compassion. I was watching one of your videos on YouTube. I tuned into your YouTube channel, which I didn't know that you had. So, for any listeners, definitely check out Ryan's YouTube channel. I'll attach all the links to my to the episode here after. But you had there was an episode where you were speaking about self compassion. What do you want people to know about self compassion? Why the importance of it, and how that can better support people in their wellness journey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and first of all, thanks for listening and watching the YouTube channel. That's an uphill battle trying to figure out how to use YouTube. I'm learning it, but I have a few of those clips up, so I'm glad you were able to take a look at them. But yeah, self compassion is obviously this is pre-pandemic. I think there's a lot more empathy floating around right now with the pandemic. But at the time when I published that video, um, I and it kind of depends too, but at least from my experience, I spent a lot of time around a lot of high achieving people, and so sometimes you can get really hard on yourself. And I use an app, for example, called Strava, and Strava is for anyone who likes movement or hiking or biking or whatever. It's great for that. It's a kind of a GPS Facebook style app for recording your movement. And and I love going on there and seeing what my friends and whoever are up to. But then you can easily go down that rabbit hole of, oh, but I should have ran faster, or oh, this person's running this
Mm,
fast, or oh, they're doing like 10K and I'm only doing 5. And so this idea of self compassion, when I made that video along with a few others at the time, it was just around being giving yourself that permission to be okay with who you are and where you're at in your wellness journey. It's yours to define, and it's yours to own. And there's so much out there. You can catch yourself on social media comparing, because naturally that's what we do. But really checking that and saying, well, what am I accomplishing in my life? What am I grateful for? What are all these things that I do really, really well? And giving yourself that permission to not be okay at other things, and to not be great at other things, and just let that go and be like, yep, that's fine. I'm not going to beat myself up over that. I'm going to be okay with that, and I'm going to continue to work on these things. I'm going to continue to do these things, and yeah, I just think self compassion is a big part of that, and you see it with wellness, right? Like there's a reason why dieting plans work, right? People, or why that industry is so big. People buy something, they go on a diet, and then they stop. And then
mm-hmm.
the self loathing that comes with that. I didn't measure up, or I used to be like this. What would happen if we replace that with self compassion? Well, I did this, and I'm okay with this, and I am this way because of this, but I am going to continue to do X, Y, and Z next time.
Mm,
And so I just think that it can be a bit of a cycle that's hard to break, and it's something we just have to be mindful of. Like I had a moment the other day where I had to have some real self compassion with myself, and just be okay to not be okay in that specific situation. And it was a tough pill to swallow, but I felt just so much more relieved recognizing it, and being okay with where I am with that. So it's I hope that provides a little bit of clarity, and I include I
mm-hmm.
hope that
Absolutely.
yeah, and I hope that people check out that YouTube video for sure, and just give yourself a big hug, because it's 2020, and we all need a hug. So give yourself a big hug.
Oh yes, that's a great way to put it. That self love, giving yourself a hug, and not being hard on yourself, but also being accountable to yourself too.
Mm,
Thank you for sharing
mhm.
that. Yeah, I really I wanted to, our listeners to be able to have that reminder about self compassion. So now that you have done these amazing things and you've worked in some amazing places, where does Foy, which is your
Mhm.
last name, Foy Consulting, fit into all of this?
Yeah, great question, Andrea. So it's kind of been there again, back to the idea of the organic. I've been doing this for since I was in university as a personal trainer, and doing wellness talks and community wellness initiatives and things like that, and kind of got away from it for a few years. But I've kind of always been in that idea of wanting to have my own business and wanting to really kind of control the time a little bit, and to be able to further support our family and whatever that looks like. And so officially I started the Foy Consulting business about a year ago. And the idea with the business is, I provide business consulting, wellness consulting, and social media consulting. And so it's really grown actually quite a bit through word of mouth, which is nice. And I've had a lot of really high retention with my clients. But it's a lot of fun, taking the experiences I've learned in navigating social media through campaigns and through some of my work over the years, and just passion for social media that's come out, and I'm able to support small businesses and individuals grow their social media presence, which is great. And of course, on the wellness front, that kind of goes without saying, but having the expertise and the lived experience in that area to really support people on their wellness journey and whatever that looks like, it's something that I really enjoy doing, and it's a lot of fun. And to do that virtually it's sometimes it's challenging, but it's still something that really fills me, which I really really like. And then on the small business front, when businesses are small, and myself included, it's very easy to get distracted. Right back to that values analogy, it's very easy for you to kind of pull your
Mm-hmm.
boat over on this shore and pull your boat over on that shore. And so I've worked with a few clients to really help them trim those decisions and get really clear on, where is your business going, what is the end goal, what is the intermediate goal, and how can you build that strategy set to make that happen. And so that's a lot of fun. But yeah, it's something, again, back to the fringe hours. It's something that's done kind of on the side of the desk and on the weekends, and I continue to want to keep it that way for now. Part of me just really wants to keep scaling and growing, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to say yes to too much, right? That I'm inadvertently saying no to others. So keeping it as it is for
Mm-hmm.
now, but it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm sure folks can check it out. They can Google Foy Consulting or Ryan Foy, and you can find it and take a look through.
Well, it all fits into your final chapter in your best decade. Got it, give it. What you learn along the way, you share with others. And I think that was a really solid and beautiful way to complete your book, your best decade, because it pulled everything together. I know that what I have learned from reading your book, I am going to be sharing with others. And I already have had some conversations where I have referred to certain things that I was reminded of, or I learned more about myself from reading your book with others in my circle here. And I know that what we have, what we this falls in line with my Blackfoot identity and Blackfoot values, is what we have, we give to others. We knowledge is it's of no use if it's sitting on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
If we've learned something but we're not sharing it with others. So I think you really pulled everything, all of the teachings that you shared and articulated in your book, so wonderfully well in how you threaded it all together with chapter 12, got it, give it. And I will definitely be recommending for anyone who's listening to this to read Ryan Fahey's book, Your Best Decade. You can purchase it off of Amazon, as well as Apple iBooks. That's how I purchased it. So I have it on my phone and I can pull it up anytime I want. I've made some highlights along the way, which I really like. And I want to congratulate you, my friend, on that accomplishment. You know, you committed to it. You talked about it in the book when you said there were nights where friends had invited you out to socialize, but you were focused on your goal. You know, I am goal crushing, I'm staying in, I'm going to get this book done. And you did it. And you do truly lead by example, which is living with intention. You know, that's really the theme of your book, and really how you carry yourself in the world. So congrats on that, and also on your consulting firm. People can learn more about it online through your website, which is your wellness, Foy Consulting Wellness. So foyconsulting.org.
Mm-hmm.
And also people can follow your journey on your social media as well through Instagram and YouTube, and as well as Facebook, Foy Consulting. And I'll gladly share those links out because I know there's so many people who will just benefit from listening and learning from you, Ryan. And it has been a true joy listening to you and reconnecting and hearing where your journey continues to take you. And on a personal note, I really enjoy watching your journey. And on a professional note, you continue to inspire me and remind me of the things that, you know, I need to continue to look at within myself, and in order to reach my greatest potential.
Well, and thank you, Andrea. You know, when you reached out and were chatting with me about this podcast, I circled it on the calendar. I was so excited. I was just like, yes, I want to find more ways to be involved with Andrea. You know, I cherish our times, and you know, even though life has changed and put us in two different cities and two different areas, but it's great to be able to connect and to have these conversations. I will say too, for your listeners, I will do a you know, one of your listeners, the first person who emails you with your email that wants a copy of the book, I will send them a free copy. So so we can figure that out, how that all work. But any listeners out there, email Andrea, and the first person gets a free book.
All righty, listeners, on your marks, get set, go.
Right.
Send that email to talkswithafox@gmail.com. That's talkswithafox@gmail.com, all one word. And Ryan and I will get that free copy out to you. Thank you so much, Ryan, for doing that. That's amazing.
Yeah, of course.
All righty. Now, before we close out this beautiful conversation that we've had and shared with everyone, I want to take you to the final four. So, how this works is I will give you a word or a sentence, and you get to choose how you want to finish it. Okay? All righty. Number 1, wellness for me is...
This is going to sound really scripted because I was hoping you would ask me. But the way I've defined wellness is it's a journey. It's not a destination. But more specifically, wellness for me is a series of intentional actions done daily that take me from living a good life to living my best life. And that's how I would define wellness.
Beautiful. Wow. That in itself sounds like a bumper sticker. Wellness is a journey, not a destination.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Number 2 of the final 4. I would tell my younger self...
Great question. I would tell my younger self to take more.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Do you want me to add more to that? I can go on.
No, that's, I mean, that in itself, yes, take more risks.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all be reminded of that, whether we're younger or older. And yes, I can relate. I would have told myself the same thing. So solid.
Thank you.
Okay. The last book I read.
Oh, this is good. The last book I read was called 100 Startups by author Chris Guillebeau. And he's a West Coast guy. And he has a few other books as well, mostly around startups and small business and side hustles. And it was awesome. It was so cool. And it's built like a recipe book. And I totally recommend it. It's expensive, but go to your local bookstore, see if they have it. It's called 100 Startups. It was awesome.
Okay, I just wrote that down, so I am adding that to my immediate list. I have a lifelong list of books that I love and need and want to read, but this is going into the immediate list category.
Awesome.
And listeners, again, I want to highly recommend you add Ryan Fahey's Your Best Decade to your immediate list, must read list, because you will not be disappointed. Okay, the final question.
This is fun.
I believe. Yay! Yes, I always love how the guests just they don't know what's coming, and yet they always seem to come up with some amazing responses. So not to put the pressure on you, but
It's great.
I believe my purpose is.
I believe that my purpose is, and this is going to sound very cliche, but to leave the world in a better place than when I found it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's been a big part of why I've wrote a book or a couple books at such a young age. Was I really wanted to add value to the world. Whether it's one person picks it up and does one thing different, adds more value to the world because of it. To me, that's worth everything. And I think that we have a responsibility to leave our world in a better place. And for me, that comes through the wellness area and in the education space. But for others, that may be through sport or through art or whatever that is. But I just think that that's a really important piece. That's what I believe.
Wow, that's such a fabulous way and truly genuine way to close out your all the tools and knowledge and wisdom that you shared with everyone today, including myself, Ryan. And I'm so grateful for our friendship and for your mentorship. And thank you for taking the time to share your story with everyone today. And I know that our listeners are going to walk away feeling inspired and reminded of all the potential they have, and also to remember to take those risks and to look closely, a little more closely at the decisions, the small decisions we make every single day and how they lead up to the goals that we ultimately plan to achieve and also fulfill our purpose. And you have truly you truly are living a life of wellness in your personal and in your professional realms and in your relationships as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful for all that you've shared. And I just want to share one of your quotes in your book. Always keep your time zone set on humility and your compass set to the humble beginnings that raised you. And I see you doing that, my friend. You truly are living that. You carry that humility and that humbleness with you wherever you go, and all the things you've achieved. I see that within you. So the world really is a better place because of people like you in it, Ryan. So, hand to heart,
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for sharing your story today. It definitely made my day, and I know our listeners are going to have a lot to think about and reflect on, and do some things differently in their lives that are going to improve their journey and nurture their journey through wellness.
Mm-hmm. Well, and thanks for having me. Honestly, Andrea, it's you come across people in life, and I talk about this when I talk about the building bridges. And there's people that come into your life for a season, and then there's people that come into your life for a reason. And you were in my life for a season, like physically when we were collaborating together, but it's just this special interaction that we've had, and you're a very special person, and that goes back to the value that you're adding to the world too, through things like this and your work and your passion, and I'm just really glad that we've connected and stayed connected, because it really means a lot to me. So thanks for having me, and thanks to your listeners for listening in, and I hope that you subscribe and you enjoy, and you connect with Andrea, because she's awesome. So thank you.
Thanks, Ryan, and many blessings and safe travels to you and Amber.
Thank you. You too.
Big thank you to my friend Ryan Fahey for coming onto the show and sharing his amazing energy, his awesome attitude, and his wisdom that you can pick up when you read his book, Your Best Decade. I highly recommend that you pick that book up, because it will truly change your life, or at least give you that boost that you're looking for, that extra motivation, and some very, very real inspiration. And remember, the first person to send me an email with your name and your contact information to talkswithafox@gmail.com will receive a copy of Ryan's book for free. So get on that right away. But I hope you all have an awesome day, and remember to keep in touch with your true, authentic self. Get real with yourself. Have those meaningful conversations with the people around you. Look at the types of people that you surround yourself with. We really do thrive and grow when we surround ourselves with other like-minded people who are on that same journey of wanting to get somewhere in life and wanting to use our gifts that Creator has given us. And I know that you're capable of doing it. So if you have a chance, also do follow, like, share Ryan Fahey's social media. He's on there and you can connect with him there. He's also an amazing life coach as well. And Ryan will be releasing an amazing tool that you can use. It's called Your Best Journal. And it's simply that, a journal where you can hold yourself accountable and record the moments of gratitude that can easily fall through the cracks in a year like 2020. So check it out at Barnes & Noble to pre-order your copy. I know I will be getting my hands on one. And remember to follow Ryan on his social media journey, because there you can also pick up some amazing tools at Foy Consulting, as well as on Facebook. And often Ryan does go live and he shares some really, really helpful tidbits that can help improve your life and keep you on that inspirational journey. And I look forward to you joining us for our next conversation with our next couple of guests that we have coming up this coming month in August. Stay real, keep it real, and have a blessed day. Gidakiramatsin.